Public Affairs very much thanks Residco, our sole corporate underwriter, for helping to make the production of this show possible.
You're watching Public Affairs. Our guest today is Bob Fioretti. He is the Republican nominee for State's Attorney of Cook County. And we'll tell you about Bob. He knows his way around the courtroom. He knows his way around trials. We'll come back to that. That's important. But the most important thing, Bob, is that these folks know, the people watching, the voters, potential voters, actual voters, what is the most important thing for them to know about what you can do as State's Attorney of Cook County?
Well, there's only one thing, which is the major issue here in the city of Chicago, is crime. And I plan on getting that under control by being tough on the criminals. I plan to restore the mission of that office, which is to represent victims, to break the cycle of crime, to enforce the rule of law. And I think with those three aims and making sure prosecutors prosecute crimes, we can do a much better job, and we will break this cycle here in this city and in the county.
Well, look, Kim Foxx has been here since 2016. This is 7 years going on 8. She said she was going to cut away the minor stuff. She won't go after the minor stuff, but she'll focus on violent crime, okay? So don't worry about shoplifting. Kids, adults, shoplift as much as you want. But that's what she sort of said. That's what it is. But she said, don't worry, Jeff, I'm going to take care of homicides. I'm going to take care of robberies, armed robberies. Has she done that, Kim Foxx?
She's done it enough that between her and her boss, Tony Preckwinkle, have lowered the jail population at the expense of the citizens of this county. Violent criminals are virtually going free here. And the problem is they have a progressive policy that the Democrats have adopted here in this state. And it's really threefold. First off is the criminal defendant is actually the good guy. The second one is the police officers are bad. And the third, the victims don't count. And so when you have that kind of philosophy, we see crime going up here in this city. No matter what the figures are, no matter what the talk is out there, people are feeling it. We need to have safety in our streets. We need to have strong communities. We need thriving businesses. Under this kind of philosophy, which even my opponent, Eileen Burke, in a way adopts because she's Kim Foxx light, causes the problems that we see here in this city. And we have to be tough. And tough can only be making sure we enforce the law.
Really, because, Foxx, if people don't know, she had 2 terms. She's not seeking re-election. There was a Democratic primary. Eileen Burke emerged from that victorious, 1,500 vote margin, and some strange thing, Preckwinkle's guy lost, and she didn't even ask for a recount. Was there a deal, do you think, between maybe Preckwinkle and Clayton Harris and Eileen Burke?
Well, I'm going to look in the crystal ball and see what that was, or go back in the past. But I say this because within minutes of her accepting the Democratic nomination, she had already talked to Tony Preckwinkle. She said she was honored to accept that and work with her. She also said something that was very troubling to the thousands of Republicans that crossed the line, the independents that voted for her that came out. And she said she was falsely portrayed as harsh on crime. What did they vote for her for? Because they wanted somebody to be tough in that office. And I plan on being tough on violent criminals. I'm not going to coddle violent criminals. I'm going to enforce the law. And I'm going to work with shopkeepers, with victims of crime, the police officers that are on the street, and prosecutors to make sure that they prosecute crimes.
So you're running unequivocally on the tough on crime candidate, is that right?
I must say so. I'm going to be tough on crime. I'm going to enforce the law. And I've said over and over before that I have a 5-point platform. One, which is important, is that prosecutors will prosecute crimes. 2, To the victims of crime, I stand with you. We are going to work together to solve the crimes that have been committed against you or your families. To the third, to the police officers that are out there, you arrest them, we'll charge them, and we'll make sure that we can work together, not against you. Fourth, to all the prosecutors that have left that office in disgust, come on back. You have a home here, same pay grade, same pay level. And then finally, we see corruption in our city. I will go after that because state's attorneys have not only the ability, but they have a duty to prosecute corruption, both public and private.
So is this a real choice? I mean, you're saying it's a challenge to Eileen Burke. You're the opposite on everything. She's soft on crime. You're tough on crime. You want to treat criminals as criminals. She wants to treat criminals as victims. You thought Fox got it all wrong. She's kind of saying, well, I don't know. Maybe she got it right. Am I being unfair, or is that how you see it?
I do see it that way. I am the alternative. I'm the one who's going to stand up for the people of this county. You know, I fought for people all my life. I have fought to punish the bad guys and to free the innocent. And, you know, as state's attorney, I'm going to make sure that we go after. We drive crime down. And we drive it down by sending a message to everyone out there that there's somebody in town, you commit the crime, you're going to serve the time. As simple as that, even though it is a little bit difficult, but we are going to do it.
So you would say you're the new sheriff in town, if elected state's attorney.
Absolutely.
And you're challenging. Well, look, if Eileen Burke wants to come on this show, Public Affairs, we welcome her. If you want to say Bob Fioretti got it wrong, she's really tough on crime, you come on and explain your statements, okay? Because that's what we want. We want to be fair. We want a clash of ideas. You want that, Bob, right?
I absolutely want to debate her as often as possible.
You do. Right now, you ready for the debate?
What time is it today? And I'm ready.
So if we can get her on next week
afternoon.
or a week after, Eileen Burke here, Bob Fioretti there, 30 minutes. I'll shut up. You two folks can go at it. Right. You'd like that?
I would love that. I think we should debate in every ward and every suburban community to make sure that the people understand the differences of what we are faced with on November 5th and how diverse that the contrast is. And I'm willing to do that anytime she's willing and able. We have about 190, 180 days left to the election. We can easily set up debates in every ward, every village, every city, or every township.
Right. Well, we're here in Chicago. We go across the city of Chicago. You know, there are 2.5 million, more than 2.5 million people in Chicago. Then there's the rest of Cook County that's outside of Chicago. That's 5 million or so people, maybe 3.5 million registered voters. That's what's at stake here, folks. It's important to get information out to the voters, to be fair, we're fair, give everybody a chance to say what they're about, what they're going to do, and let the voters decide. That's what democracy is, right?
I agree with you 100%. And I know your show is influential. It reaches a lot of people, but we got to keep getting it out, get the word out, and the difference and the contrast between the candidates. And I have spoken throughout parts of this county so far as this campaign is starting to heat up. And I am surprised to hear that they want change. The people of this, I'm not surprised because I've seen it often, but that people do want change here in this
Well,
county.
let's look at what they want change from, because Wire Points has put this together, you know, and they're, look, 2023 crimes is when they first came up with this chart. The year 2023, major crimes, major Chicago crimes hit post-COVID record, up 55% over 2019, because people are saying crime is coming down, and then they look at its high. Yeah, it's coming down from its high. But 2019 was pre-COVID, and when we look at 2019, there were 50,000 or so major crimes in Chicago. By 2023, post-COVID, something like almost 78,000. That's a huge increase, a 55% increase. I mean, is that Is that what, if Kim Foxx were running, she'd have to run on her record a 55% increase since 2019 in major crimes. Is Eileen Burke, she's a Democrat. Her fellow Democrat is Fox. Is she running on that? She got Chicago a 55% increase in major crimes.
Well, let's not forget too. There's a dwindling population. Less people are coming into the city, into the core of the city. You can walk downtown and see less, but we're having crime all over. We just recently had another police officer shot and killed here in this city, and if they can shoot a police officer at any time, then we have a problem because nobody is safe here in the city. And I plan on helping to make this city safe again for all citizens.
It used to be a big deal. If you shoot a cop, it's going to be a terrible thing. You're going to be really severely prosecuted. Your life is going to be hell. You're going to be lucky if you escape the death penalty. Now they shoot cops. Hey, just another guy, right?
Well, it's also on police officers are out there. They have they're a morale problem because they don't have people backing them up. I'm going to back police officers. I'm going to say it here and say it again whenever you want, that I have their back. But more importantly, we need to make sure that the criminal element here in this city who is causing the crimes, whether it's on the south side, west side, downtown, north side, it really doesn't matter where they commit the crimes. Once they're arrested, they will be charged and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
So if the FOP, the Fraternal Order of Police in Chicago, offered you their endorsement, you'd take it?
You know what? I know I have the police backing. I know the officers on the street. I'm not going to do a theoretical, but I have talked to police officers all across this city. And when I'm elected, I'm going to go into all the 20-some districts that we have in this city and tell the commander and the police officers, I have your back. I'm going to go out to all the suburban ones, too, and do the same. We have to end the cycle of crime here in this city, Jeff.
Because your opponent, your Democrat opponent, Eileen Burke, she was offered that endorsement. She said, I don't want it. I don't want the FOP endorsement when she was running against Clayton Harris in the Democratic primary. You find that surprising? She wouldn't want the law and order endorsement. She wouldn't want the endorsement of the men and women in blue. You find that shocking?
Well, I find a lot of things that on how she ran one day and what she's running the next day. So how we look at what this candidate does, there is a contrast. I'm not going to change my views. One thing, people have said, Bob, but how you're doing this or this. Well, I have not changed. I have not changed in my views. When I was an elected alderman in the city council, I stood up for law and order. I stood for the victims even then. I challenged my fellow aldermen that if we spent as much time talking about small projects, hours and hours, and started tackling the problem of crime, we can solve it. But nobody wants to collaboratively work together here. It's time that we must work together to solve the issues of crime.
So you've got a history of this. This goes back 15 years when you were an alderman, two-term alderman. You were a friend of the police then. You were a friend of the people. Yes, if there was a bad cop, you would be against that. But in general, most cops are good cops. Think we got that right?
I think more than most cops.
99.9% maybe least. Now. Yeah.
I've said that before, 99.9, and I believe it. The few bad cops that are out there, and it seems like, we have to blame the police for something. And it's amazing how conversations, even like now, shift to about the bad cop. If they're out there, they need to face discipline. But it's the same thing. I'm a lawyer, as you know, and lawyers, we have a lot of problems in the legal profession as we try to sort them out. I've been fortunate in my past to serve on many boards that deal with lawyers, see how we deal with their character, their fitness, to see who wants to run for judge and whether they're fit or not. And I think all of that impacts on my perspective. I mean, granted, I'm a bit older than she is, but age sometimes has an ability. I've tried hundreds in terms of cases in front of me. I've brought the motions that are necessary. I've been in front of juries. I've been in front of bench trials. I've tried lengthy
So you know the
trials.
courtroom because you're going to have 750 to 800 assistant state's attorneys. And most of them are going to be involved day in and day out in going to courtrooms around the county and dealing with street crime and criminal trials and putting them away. You got to be the inspiration. You got to be the person who understands what it takes to be a good courtroom lawyer, a trial lawyer, so they can respect you. That's why you're not going to get to try many cases, are you?
Right.
But you're going to manage a bunch of trial lawyers, and you want them to understand how to put on a trial because you've done it. You've done more than 100 trials, bench and jury trials, and you've done criminal trials, and you understand this, and you can guide them how to do a direct, how to do a cross. You're not just snowing people. You've actually done those real trials, right?
I don't talk the talk. I've done the walk.
Okay.
And I say that because I've seen how it works. I've seen in both state and federal courts. I've seen it in the surrounding counties. I've been in every courthouse and every courtroom in the county.
You've been appointed as a special Illinois Attorney General?
By both Democrat and Republican Attorney General.
Because, Bob, you have respect to both parties because you were a Democrat for a long time and you converted recently to a Republican. So you know what it means to be a Democrat. You know what it means to be a Republican. But what's the most important thing as state's attorney, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, or are there other traits that are more important?
Well, first of all, I did change. I saw even when I was in the city council that people were elected not just because they wanted to serve constituents, but they wanted to line their own pockets, and we see that what happens. But you asked what is important in terms of a state's attorney. I think their character, their fitness, their direction, their ethics. I'm going to set a high ethical standard in that office so we won't have the problems that Eileen Burke has encountered. We won't see those issues. We're going to ethics comes from the top down, and people have to realize
So
that.
one ethic is if you tell people, the voters, you're going to cut crime, that's a promise.
Yes, it
They
is.
expect you to do it. Can you? Because we refer to the crime from WirePoint's their chart of from 2019 to 2023, and then people say it's getting better. But in that chart in 2023, crime is up 16%. You know, crime in 2022 is up 40%. Is that better? Is that better, Bob?
Better than what?
Is it better than 2019?
and,
those
you know,
are relative. Those are relative to 2019. That's the relevant comparison. That was pre-COVID. So when they say it's better than at the high of 2022, that ain't better. When it's better than the high of 2021, that ain't better. So you gotta level with people. If it isn't better, you gotta tell them. But more importantly, Bob, how are you fixing that? How are you cutting that crime dramatically? What are you gonna do? What are you going to do with the state's attorney's office?
Well, again, prosecutors are going to begin prosecuting crimes
Prosecute.
the way they should.
Yeah.
We are not the legislative body. The legislative body is down in Springfield. If people don't like the law, they go to Springfield to change it. I am going to enforce the law as written across the board. You know, you can say crime is down, but you tell that to the 77,523 victims in this city in 2023 if crime is down. You tell it to the people who waited for 911 calls, and because we're undermanned and we don't have enough personnel in the police department to respond, that they feel that crime is down.
Well, this is the first. You watched some of the Democratic primary. Did you ever hear Eileen Burke mention 77,000, more than 77,000 major crime victims in 2023? Ever?
I don't think either one of the Democrats.
No.
They live in the Ivy Towers, and most of the Democrats don't feel the crime who are elected officials, because they either have people that are bodyguards. I mean, our strong the 3 or 4 people that really deal with crime here in the city: the mayor of the city of Chicago, the county board chair, the chief judge, and the state's attorney's office. All have people that all have bodyguards generally.
But yeah, the people running for state's attorney, that race was just concluded a month ago. It was going on for 4 or 5 months. Did either Burke or Clayton Harris ever say, hey, in the last half of 2023, according to Wire Points, 50% spike in robberies in Chicago just in the last half a year. You just turn on your TV news, you see it. 4 thugs roll up, whether it's the north side, whether it's the west side, whether it's the south side of Chicago, whether it's much of Cook County and the suburbs. They roll up on some innocent person, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, sometimes it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. 4 thugs jump out and they put a gun on somebody and they rob them. Why? Did they ever mention that?
No.
The robberies, they just don't happen. But I mean,
because they ignore what's happening in the streets. I really don't think either one of them traveled that much in the south and west sides and saw what was happening, or even up in the far northern suburbs down to the far southern suburbs. This is a big county, and together, they have to understand what's happening with the people, not just in the city of Chicago, but throughout the county. I know for the average amount of cars stolen in the city of Chicago for the first 3 months per day was 61 cars per day. We have to put an end to this. And we have to have people that feel safe. They have to feel safe that their kids, and don't forget, get to school. I was one of the people that started Operation Safe Passage to make sure our kids get to school safely. And these are the things we need to do. I do believe that we can make our streets safe again, and we can have an enjoyable quality of life in every neighborhood, that merchants and retail owners can feel, that they can feel safe in their communities and their businesses.
Okay, so give them in 20 seconds, a few words. What do you have to do as a state's attorney to do what's necessary to make the streets safe? What do you have to do?
Well, there's plenty that I have behind, but again, prosecute those that are responsible for the crimes. Let's not coddle violent criminals. Let's back the police in our communities. Let's work collaboratively together, and we will have safe streets, strong communities, thriving businesses in every area of this county.
Okay, Bob Fioretti, Republican nominee for state's attorney. You come back. We got 6 months. We want to see you again. And Eileen Burke, you come on. We want to see both of you separately, and we want to see you clash, a debate, and you come back. People who are watching this, thank you so much for watching. You come back to Public Affairs next week and every week.